Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Riverfront here on 420. This is episode number 475 of the world's most dangerous podcast, where we discuss the Cincinnati Reds and occasionally Miguel Cairo. I'm your host, Chad Dotson. With me again this week, your friend and mine, everyone's favorite, Nate Dotson. How are you, Nate?
Chad, it was the best of times. It was the worst of times in Reds land of late. But we had some stuff go down. I'm excited to talk to you. You know, Thursdays are my favorite day of the week because we get to talk baseball for a little bit. And yeah, I'm ready to dive right in. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. You're right. We're going to talk about the big news of the week in just one moment, obviously. But as soon as that came down, one of the first things I thought was, oh, man, I can't wait to talk about this. So much to unpack. And I'm genuinely excited to talk about this and what it means going forward. That's enough of a tease. If you don't know what we're talking about, then I can't believe you're listening to a Reds podcast because you're clearly not paying enough attention. But before we get into that, Nate, you had a good week. Anything else going on for you?
Not much. It's the dog days of my profession as well. So staying busy with all the rest of my time. Enjoying married life. I don't know.
Excellent.
Happy as a clam.
Good. That's what we want. That's what we need out of you so that you can be upbeat here. I was going to mention to you, I had a chance to cross an item off my bucket list this week. We won't talk about it much, but I do want to mention, I was able to go to the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum out in Kansas City. It's Kansas City, Missouri, for those of you not from flyover country. Missouri. And that Negro Leagues Baseball Museum is really impressive. I mean, it's really, really well done, well curated. I don't know that I learned a lot that I didn't already know because, I've read a lot. You watch Ken Burns' baseball documentary 50 times like I have, you're going to pick up a thing or two. But just a tribute to those players and, lots of cool Satchel Paige stuff there. There was a really, really cool like ledger book for the Kansas City Monarchs where they wrote out their expenses, and it was, I don't know, it was a neat experience. I'm glad I got to do it. It's if you're ever anywhere close to that, I encourage you to go check that out. It's worth the $10 admission fee without question.
Very good.
I will say though that I was disappointed that in one of the exhibits there was a typo and no one has corrected it over all these years, and that really frustrates me as a wannabe English teacher. I wish I had a red pen with me. I would have marked it out. Anyway, that's enough nonsense. I'm delaying. I'm vamping here a little bit before we get to the big news of the week. And that, of course, is Luke Weaver's back.
Woo!
Yes, finally. The day has arrived. Luke Weaver has returned to the Reds roster. And as we record this on Thursday night, he's given up 4 runs in the first inning. No, let's talk about a different pitcher. Hunter Greene. Hunter Greene came highly touted, number 2 overall pick for the Reds. And guess what? The Reds signed Hunter Greene to a contract extension, a new 6-year contract that's going to be worth at least $53 million. I think could get up to $91 million, $91.2 million if he hits all the what they call escalators in the clause. So it's the deal will start 2023, runs through 2028, and there's also a $21 million option for 2029 season. So, but there's a $2 million buyout there. So presumably, if Hunter Greene is good, they'll pick up that option, and it will buy out the first 2 years of Hunter Greene's free agency. And so I guess I'll just there's a lot to unpack here, but let me know what were your first thoughts? What went through your mind when you saw this and as you started to process this?
Drinks are on Hunter as soon as they get to the bar. He's buying the first couple rounds if he's old enough. I'm not sure he's old enough. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. Let's be honest. We have talked over and over on this podcast that this is the exact kind of move that we want them to make and have no faith that they will. This Braves-esque strategy of locking up your young guys. And well, without a whisper, without a hint, they went and did it. And they did it for, in my opinion, the guy that has the highest ceiling of anybody on their roster. We're talking about a guy who can not only be the face of the franchise, but could be the face of MLB. He's already sort of taken that mantle. He's loving his role in the African American community and sort of being that face. This guy was a Sports Illustrated cover with Bryce Harper and LeBron James, like that type of guy. And he's going to be a Red. He's going to be a Red for a long time now. At least he's under team control for a long time. I could not be more excited. Anybody that says this is a bad move, I just don't get it. We don't have a lot to talk about. This is a great day.
Yeah, and there are those that are saying it's a bad contract. What's he done to show he deserves this? I'm like, get out of town with this. We've talked a lot about, like you said, the strategy, and that was sort of my off-season piece or my opening day piece at Cincinnati Magazine was, here are 5 steps the Reds can mimic the Bengals to return to prominence, and one of those was actually mimicking the Braves by locking up some of these young guys. Okay, you've gone all in on you got the Halls, you've gone all in on the kids. Okay, now you have to take that next step. Okay, and the next step is let's start locking up some of these younger guys. Now, and again, didn't believe we'd ever see this day, frankly. And I'm not going to believe that they're going to continue on with this because they've never stuck with a strategy ever for any length of time. That said, great sign, just a fantastic sign that they do intend to follow through. There are more steps to this. Lock up some of those young guys, and then as some of the other prospects come up, you start paying to fill in whatever spots are still a problem around it. There are other steps in this, but you can't take step 2, 3, 4, and 5 in this process until you take that first step. Okay. And this was a huge statement on behalf of the organization and ownership. Let's say ownership had to agree to commit these dollars. Sure. It's a huge statement from Hunter Greene, who it makes sense all the way around. Some people say, why would he sign for so little? So little, right? But if he were a free agent today, he would make more than that. About it. But it makes sense for the Reds because they did what the Braves did. Look at Ronald Acuna and Ozzie Albies. Look at those deals, and look how they were below market value. Made sense for the Reds in that sense. This is below market value for what Hunter Greene is expected to provide. So why does it make sense for Hunter Greene? Because I hesitate to say anything about injuries when it comes to Hunter Greene because I've gotten in trouble in the past with that. But it gives him some guaranteed money. It gives him some, a safety net just in case. And then also he'll be 29, 30, and he can still be a free agent.
And what I really like about it from Hunter Greene's perspective is that I like what Hunter Greene is saying here. And let's look at Hunter Greene's actual words. I really just want to be at the forefront of it all, to be a good piece along with a lot of other pieces that are part of the team and part of the organization. I'm just one of many. It's easy to look at the stadium and say there are no fans. I'll wait and go elsewhere. But if I can look back and know that I was part of bringing fans back into the stadium, filling the seats, bringing that back to the city, that's awesome. For me, that's the main reason why. Well, that's a lie. That's not the main reason. The main reason why is he's getting a lot of guaranteed money, okay? But that is the reason why Hunter Greene should always have been the first one of these young kids that they sought to sign. That answer there. This kid is the face of the franchise. I mean, he's perfect for it. Just, he knew exactly what to say. He needs to go out whenever Nick Krall's thinking about speaking publicly. They need to just send Hunter Greene to speak for him because he knew the right thing to say there. He's just such a mature kid. And I don't know. Yes, his ERA is not as good as you want it to be. Get out of here. There's nothing bad about this. This is a 100% great signing. Kudos to Nick Krall. Kudos to the Reds organization for getting it done. And thank you to Hunter Greene for committing to us for a little bit. We know that on this show we get to talk about Hunter Greene for the foreseeable future. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, I love it. I'm glad you brought up that quote right there by Hunter. I had pulled that up to talk about myself. A few other things. It starts out low and increases yearly. So it gives the Reds a lot of flexibility for these first few years. They still have plenty of room in the bank. He like you said, he buys out those 2 years of free agency. I think it's just a win-win. You mentioned him getting to hit the market again at the right time with the ceiling that Hunter Greene has. Even when it gets closer to $20 million, this could be an absolute bargain for the Reds. It shows the willingness to keep guys around, a semblance of a plan, loyalty, which I think has got to be really, really big in the clubhouse right now. I love everything about it. I thought it was also interesting that one of the agents working for him is Amber Sabathia, wife of CC Sabathia, who started out on a small market team in Ohio.
Oh, that's true.
Before getting traded and going getting his big deal. And Hunter mentioned that she had a lot of really good advice and wisdom for him in the discussions leading up to this. So I guess the big question is this just the first of many dominoes to fall? Who comes next? Is anybody going to come next? Because Nick Krall kind of said some things that made us think that there might be a few more people coming soon.
Yeah, well, but Nick Krall's bad at talking. You never know what he's saying is because he wants to hear his head rattle. I don't pay a whole lot of attention to that, but yes, they're trying to make something else happen. I do believe that. But I hadn't seen this, and maybe some other podcasts or media somewhere have said this, but I haven't seen as enough of the coverage or listened to enough of the other shows to know. But the first thing that went through my mind was this really reminds me a lot of when the Reds signed Johnny Cueto to his first extension. Now, people think back and they say they yell at the Reds for signing Homer Bailey to an extension and not Cueto, and they always forget the Reds signed Cueto to an extension first. Now, they didn't sign him to another one later, and maybe they should. I would like him. It really reminds me that it came on at the front end of when the Reds were competitive. So back in the 2010 era. So is this a harbinger of things to come, as Nate asks? Well, how about a little bit of first of all, before we get into these viewer mail questions, I do have a little bit of trivia time for you, Nate. I keep trying to delay answering the topic you try to bring up. But trivia time. How many current Cincinnati players have a guaranteed salary for next season, Nate? How many Cincinnati Reds players have a guaranteed salary for next season? If you're not watching on the YouTube, you don't know the answer until Nate says it out loud.
I think as of now, it's one.
One player.
Hunter Greene is the only guaranteed salary on the books.
The youngest guy on the team is the only one guaranteed to be able to do this.
On Hunter.
Yeah, the rest are obviously arbitration, pre-arb. Okay, so viewer mail questions. There's two here that help us get into the topic Nate's trying to lead us to. First comes from Seth Shaner. With the Hunter Greene signing being lauded as the next/first step, depending on what you call last year, in building a winning franchise, how many more steps will it take to change those of us who are more skeptical into believers? And what are some of those moves? And then Eric Market, what player should be extended next after Hunter Greene was extended? I think we can take those two together. What are the next steps that have to be done? So if it's you, Nate, who's the next guy? Again, this requires two people to sign a contract. There's a lot of moving pieces. But if you could wave the magic wand, who's the next person you see the Reds sign to a long-term deal?
Who's the next person I can see them doing that for, or who would I want it to be?
Who would you do? Who would you do? Who would you choose?
If it's me, it's Tyler Stevenson.
Interesting. Even with the injury issues.
Even with the injuries, I think you might be able to get him at a better deal than you likely will be in a couple years if he reaches the potential that I see him reaching. He's having a slow start right now, so it might be a really good time to engage in those talks. Tyler would be my first guy to target because I think just locking up a guy that has potential to be an above-average defensive catcher and to be an elite offensive catcher is such an important part of the position. You want to build up the middle, and it starts behind the dish. How about you?
Right, yeah. No, I listen, I'm not arguing with that. He's probably number 3 on my list after Hunter Greene and Nick Lodolo. Nick Lodolo is the next guy that I look to lock up. Again, we're talking, these are dream scenarios here. And this time last week, we never would even thought to dream this until Hunter signed. But I think Nick Lodolo, I think you get those top 2 guys locked in early, and that's you talk about a building block to build a team around. And then, Ashcraft, maybe we'll see. But those two just are elite talents. Yeah, I would say that. And then I would look at Tyler Stevenson after that because I'm like you. I think Tyler Stevenson, I think we may be either ahead of the curve or behind the curve on this one because I'm not sure everyone would agree with us on Tyler Stevenson here because, injury issues. And then, his power has not been great so far this year. It's going to come back. I fully trust Tyler Stevenson. He has hit in the big leagues ever since he's been here. He plays a premium defensive position. So those are my top 3. Who else on the current roster, not talking about, those that are not yet to the major league level, or is there anyone else you would look to extend?
Yeah, I had Lodolo next also. Him and Tyler could be flip-flopped. Jonathan India, Graham Ashcraft, and Spencer Steer are all on my radar. I like the idea of I think India's a Scott Boras guy. So I'm a little worried that he might be difficult to lock in for a long time. He also might value his place in the market a little higher than I do. And I'm a Jonathan India fan. I don't want him, quote tweeting me about this.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I like how he's sort of the heart and soul of the team right now, it seems like. And I like to have that guy around at the right price. I don't know that that's possible. More than anything, though, I would love to see them lock up that top three in the rotation. Get all three of those guys under contract. You have to think a guy like Graham Ashcraft, who is not on any top 100 prospect lists going into last season, would be pretty happy to accept something guaranteed quickly.
Well, that's a good point. If you really think Ashcraft is what he's looked like he's been, and that he's going to be a starter long term instead of what I think he's going to be a good setup guy still.
Pretty good. Okay, average setup guy.
When I'm wrong on here, I'll lean into it. I admit it. I'll just lean into it. I was wrong on Ashcraft. But yeah, you could, the price wise, you might be able to get him. I mean, the truth is, really, those three pitchers and Tyler Stevenson are about the only ones I would really, I mean, Spencer Steer is likely to be a solid big league hitter. Do you really want to lock up somebody like that? Look at who the Braves have locked up. Have they locked up anyone that's a Spencer Steer level hitter? I don't think so. I mean, they're mostly better prospects, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I like Steer, like him a lot. I just think you can get him cheap later on down the line. And you've got him he's so cost controlled right now. There's no reason to try to buy out years yet, unless you think he's going to outperform his projections and you want to get him cheap.
Exactly.
Yeah. I guess the elephant in the room is Jonathan India. And we did have another question about that. Supposedly the Reds have not engaged Jonathan India in extension discussions. Why do you think that is? And that goes back to Nick Krall's quote, right? That you were talking about a moment ago. This is a tough one. This is something I'm not going to discuss on Twitter for the reason you just said, because I don't need Jonathan India making me a bad guy on Twitter. I don't know that Jonathan India projects as the type of guy you want to build a franchise around. I love the guy. I would like him to be in Cincinnati's whole career. Okay. I like the guy. He's going to be a solidly average to somewhat above average player. I don't know if he can play second base long term. I just don't. First of all, the Reds are awful defensively this year. They're just bad. The whole team is bad.
Yeah.
But
more on that later.
Yeah, right. But Jonathan India, our buddy Joe Farsing likes to say often that he projects him as being a left fielder or first baseman defensively. I don't know if I'm if that's quite the case. But if he is a left fielder or first base, he's probably not going to hit enough to justify. Maybe you will. But to the extent that you want to buy him out, you want to give him an Ozzie Albies type deal. Gosh, I'm not seeing it. Could he be a third baseman? Maybe. Is he going to hit better than Spencer Steer there? So I don't know. That's a difficult question. If the Reds have not engaged in talks with him, he's probably upset about it. That's probably why he said that. But I don't know that I'd be going out of my way, I guess is what I'm saying, to engage him in talks.
I read a piece in The Athletic, I believe, and I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that Hunter Greene asked his folks to go reach out to the Reds. It was like, hey, I want to get this done. Yeah. So I don't see Scott Boras doing something like that.
Well, that's true.
He is not notorious for, leaving money on the table. So between that and questions about his glove and whatever price tag he might think he's worth, I think that is probably why he has not been engaged where it seems like Nick Lodolo and Graham Ashcraft have been.
Well, Boras is not an idiot, though. I mean, he may present India's value as being one thing while knowing that it's not that. The question is, can he convince somebody to give him that money? And maybe it only takes one team. But I don't know. I hate it because we've talked about him being the heart and soul, like you said here, and I don't want to act like we're pushing him out. We're not. I like the guy.
All of the asterisks. We want that guy around for a long time. Huge Jonathan India fans on this podcast. Thanks for this. Well, outside of guys that are already on the roster, who else could you project? For me, it's a no-brainer. I think one of the savviest business moves they could make would be to throw a bunch of money at Ellie De La Cruz right now.
Today.
Right now, before he even sees a pitch in AAA, which I guess just happened. But the guy signed for $65,000. Give him a check that says, here is generational wealth you and your parents and your kids and their kids are taken care of immediately, and get him for what's going to be so far below market value in a couple of years that it's insane. Give him the money yesterday.
Yeah, if he turns out to be even just not even the heights that he could reach, not even his ceiling. If he just turns out to be some portion of that, he's going to be worth big time dollars. Yeah, now that would be aggressive, and I don't see the Reds doing that because can you imagine having to convince Bob Castellini to pay that money, knowing that he gets to pay Ellie De La Cruz, rookie salary next year, league minimum. So I don't see that, but no, I agree. That's the only one of those. I know we have a good farm system, but that's the only one I would even think about doing something like that because that's outside the box. I mean, there've been a couple teams that have tried something like that, but the Reds, I will believe the Reds think that far outside the box when I see it. But that said, I didn't see this coming. So that's wonderful.
The one thing I'm not going to do, because this is a good vibes only podcast, at least as it concerns this deal. What I'm not going to do, Chad, is I'm not going to think about how this contract will look amazing as a trade asset in a few years. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to consider that the Castellanis might be just gaslighting the fans and this ends up being the only move. I'm not going to let that creep into my mind. And I'm also not going to consider what this rotation would look like with Luis Castillo and Sonny Gray in it. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to do it.
Well, thank you for not doing either of those things. I really appreciate that. Good vibes only. Just to kind of finish up that first question from Seth, what are the next moves? We've kind of already talked about it, but the next moves, sign these guys, see which of the Ellie De La Cruz, Noel V. Marte, Matt McLean, which of those groups, which of them actually pan out and become legit big league players. And then you start to know where you need to fill in. And really the final step in this rebirth would be to fill those holes and actually go get a bullpen, actually finish out the rotation. We need a left fielder. Okay, go get a left fielder. So, and the Reds have never really taken that final step since the Castellanis have owned the team. And but again, hope springs eternal today with Hunter Greene in the fold. What a time to be alive. All right. Some other things happened this week. Nate, evidently the Reds played baseball.
There was a little bit of baseball. There was a lot of baseball. There wasn't a lot of good baseball since we last spoke.
There was not. The Reds, of course, split series against the Philadelphia Phillies.
The reigning World Series runner-up Philadelphia Phillies.
That's right, including a 13-0 victory last Saturday, headlined by Graham Ashcraft. And then Luis Cessa vomited all over himself on Sunday. That, of course, was 2 days after Connor Overton did whatever Connor Overton does. And the Reds lost 14-3 in that finale. And then the Reds actually won 8-1 in the series opener against the Tampa Bay Rays. I'm not sure what happened the next 2 days, but I know they won the first game of the Tampa series, so that's good.
They beat Tampa. They signed Hunter. And that game was interesting because Hunter Greene started that game.
That's right.
Didn't pitch very long. 3 scoreless innings before taking one off the shin, before taking one out of Bob's checkbook. But
yep. He took a beating before Bob Castellini took a beating this week. Yeah. And then the Reds took a beating. And then another
beating. Lost the Rays series 1-2. Record low attendance in one of those games. I think just over 7,000 reported fans. Not great. Chad Mottola continues to haunt the Reds franchise as the Rays hitting coach because that team is good. They
are good. The Reds, of course, are 7-11 on the year now. And right now they're on Thursday night into the 6th inning, down 4-0 at Pittsburgh. So maybe going to drop into 7-12, but it's not funny, but it's interesting that the Reds set an all-time low 7,375 was the attendance for Monday's opener against the Tampa Bay Rays. And all of a sudden they go and sign Hunter Greene. Was that what triggered Castellini to be like, oh my goodness, we're going to have to do something. We just set a record. I'm not sure that he even knows who was there and who wasn't, but I did think it was ironic that they signed him immediately after that.
Don't look now, but the Reds are on if they lose this game, a 60-win pace in 2023. So we're not going to focus on that. There were some good things though that happened since we last spoke. Will Myers found his stroke at the plate a little bit, had a 1.073 OPS, Spencer Steer was still raking despite missing a couple games. OPS near 9. Signs of life for Kevin the Immortal Newman, who's been playing pretty well. And my favorite thing here is a shout out to Bryce Spalding of the Twitter sphere, who pulled up this tweet. Since his brutal 2-14 start, Jose Barrero has an OPS over 800, slash line of .267, 371 on base, and 433 slugging. So some encouraging signs from our boy Jose.
Well, that's that's picking and choosing endpoints there to prove a point.
Sure.
But certainly he's better. He's better.
Darn right it is.
India and Stevenson both have doubles tonight, by the way. The only 2 hits
like
the Reds
that.
have. Yeah. So, Spencer Steer back in the lineup tonight, hitting third, which is interesting in the line tonight. And I don't know. The Reds are what they are. The Reds are not any better than they were this time last week or the week before. They're bad. We've been telling you they're bad. They're just about to go 5 games under 500 already. And they're in last place in the National League Central. But I don't know. There's something about they're 6.5 games out coming into play tonight. Yikes already. But Hunter Greene signing, Ellie De La Cruz. We'll talk about him in a moment, a little bit more. I don't know. Spencer Steer back. They're interesting. They're interesting still. Next up on our agenda to talk about Nate, we've already talked about him a lot, but we try to do a weekly Hunter Greene, Nick Lodolo, Graham Ashcraft update. You want to handle that, or have we said enough about those 3? They're still the big 3.
We can run through a couple things since the last week's episode. Hunter Greene, only 3 innings in that start, but was throwing his changeup and actually got a strikeout throwing that change with the runner on third, which is interesting. If he can develop that into a reliable third pitch, then watch out. And I got thrown a 92.6 mile an hour changeup. Just hilarious. Lodolo got beat around. He looked really bad. Granted, that Rays team is good, and they have extreme plate discipline and great approaches up and down that lineup. But are you worried at all about Nick Lodolo?
People were saying that. That's not directed at you. I'm thinking about everybody's saying, "Oh, now after Hunter Greene signs that day, everybody's like, oh, Nick Lodolo now." And he goes out and lays an egg. And there were people saying, that's why you can't sign young pitchers, or he's a bust, People are just like, and some people were being facetious saying that, obviously. But no, Nick Lodolo's amazing. He had one bad start against the best team, maybe not the best team in baseball, but one of the better teams in
also
baseball,
maybe.
Certainly. Yeah. And maybe the best, right? Yeah. Certainly they've played the best so far this season. So come on, sign him. Matter of fact, I would, as soon as he came out of the game, after that miserable start, I would have shoved a contract under his nose right there. Man, that's a bad start. You want to sign here? I better. My career might be over. No, come on.
I'm not worried about Lodolo. I am worried about the Hunter Greene haters, because if his count stats get better than Nick Lodolo's, then what ammunition are they going to have for why Lodolo's the better pitcher? I don't get it.
Somebody said, before you get to ask her quickly, so I had at least 3 people on Twitter say to me some version of, he should be able to pitch more than 4 innings in a game before you give him all those millions of dollars. Get out of here. Go on, Ashcraft.
People are the worst. Speaking of going more than 4 innings, Ashcraft is still the GOAT. His 1 start since last week's episode, 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 0 earned runs, 4 walks, but 4 Ks. He's got a 1.42 ERA on the year. He is the staff ace for sure. Lock him up, $300 million. Let's go. Miss me with any other opinions, because there is none. Obviously, getting there, but Ashcraft has looked fantastic, and I'm loving every minute of it.
Can you imagine if in the next couple months, approaching the All-Star break, the Reds were able to lock up Lodolo and Ashcraft? I mean, can you imagine if they took that step and actually got that done? What that would do to the fan base? What it would do to, our hope levels would go off the charts. We'd start believing again, and only to get our hearts broken, because that's what always happens in Cincinnati sports. But I'm just dreaming. The Hunter Greene deal got me dreaming, man.
Question is, how long until we have to add University of Virginia's Andrew Abbott to these weekly updates?
How quickly can we get him to AAA first? I mean, or just bring him on up. That dude
Luis Castillo skipped AAA.
He did, and he turned out okay, and he's not with the Reds anymore. Andrew Abbott down at AA Chattanooga looking amazing, and you got to think, presuming health, he's in the Reds rotation by the end of the year. He has to be. I mean, not like there's other.
I don't see how you can keep him down. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I think he's averaging 27 Ks per nine.
Yeah. Maybe slightly more. Maybe slightly more than that. Yeah. No, it's fantastic. Let's talk about the transactions of the week before we get into some other topics that are going to be fun to discuss. First, Connor Overton, who was one of the Reds opening day in the Reds opening day starting rotation, number 4 guy in the rotation, went on the 15-day injured list with an inflamed ERA. Connor Overton in 3 starts, encompassing 11 innings pitched, gave up 19 hits, 14 runs, 11.45 ERA. He struck out 9 and walked 7. Connor Overton at age 29. I think the Overton window is closed. He had 4 fun starts last year, and we appreciate him for those. Godspeed, Connor Overton. You want to have a requiem for Connor Overton, or we do need to devote a full podcast to that?
I think we just need to move on. I think he's feeling it enough. He doesn't need to hear it from us.
That's true. Bless his heart, as they would say. Well, he was replaced, supposedly, I guess, it was supposed to be Luke Weaver originally. They pushed Weaver back then and brought up Levi Stout. Levi Stout. Now, that has to be a hefty boy with that name like that, right? Is he one of your hefty boys, Nate? Yeah.
Maybe that's why he didn't have a better outing.
Levi Stout pitched 4 innings in his Reds debut, gave up 7 earned runs on 9 hits. He walked 1, struck out 3, and was summarily dumped back into AAA. Levi Stout.
I will say he only gave up 1 earned run after a 6-run first. So if you only count innings 2 through 4, that's fine. He was fine.
I saw some people talking about, why aren't the Reds having their prospects like Levi Stout up pitching? I'm like, Levi Stout's not really a prospect. I mean, his ceiling is probably as a number 4 starter.
Yeah.
Yes, he could be a useful big league player. I'm not saying he couldn't. Being a number 4 starter in the big leagues that's very impressive. Yeah. But I'll believe it when I see it. Brandon Williamson's the other one. He has a little bit more pedigree. He's taller, so he looks more like a pitcher. But you got to show me something first.
Yeah. So Stout's been decent this year, so I wasn't upset about him getting that nod. Williamson has just been bad. He's been really, really bad. He was horrible in spring training. I think I was on this podcast saying that he was going to lead the team in quality starts or something like that. Was my apparently really, really bold prediction. He's looked like garbage. So we need some people to step up, and it's not been him or this next guy who started today.
That's true. No, and let me just say that with respect to Stout, I don't have a problem with Stout starting. Given what the Reds have on their roster available right now, I don't have a problem starting until Andrew Abbott's ready or something like that, or until the Reds can sign Mike Minor off the garbage heap. But not a good debut for Levi Stout and Luke Weaver. Luke Weaver, of course, was supposed to have started on with a Wednesday game, got pushed back a day. They're moving Hunter Greene back a day as well to try to get him a little bit further away, a little more rest after taking that liner. Not a good start so far as we're talking Luke Weaver, although, again, similar to Levi Stout, who had the rough first inning. Luke Weaver gave up 4 runs in the first inning, and through 5 right now as we're talking, and into the 6th inning. Looks like still in the game.
A serious upgrade from what we have gotten out of the 4th and 5th spots in this rotation thus far this year.
That's actually true.
I take back any Luke Weaver slander. Turns out he's my new favorite. Go Luke.
Yeah, Luke Weaver.
Yeah, just appreciate these guys for what they are. I mean, Levi Stout, okay, I see some optimism there if you want to. He could be a good 4th or 5th starter, which is awesome to have. Good teams need those guys. Luke Weaver's a different case. Any positive appearances we get from him, we should be happy about. He wasn't good enough for the Royals, and they're bad. He's just not really ever done it. So if he figured something out, and we've got him for a little while, and Derek Johnson can work some magic, great. But I'm not going to close my eyes at night dreaming sweet, sweet Luke Weaver dreams.
I like the glass half full take though with Luke Weaver there. Yeah, I mean it is what it is. actually, now's a good time to talk about what I wrote about at Cincinnati Magazine this week. If you didn't see it, first of all, what are you doing? But it was basically how many starting pitchers do the Reds really need was the headline. I don't give the headlines, but that's what it said. And essentially, I was talking about how the Reds have 3 great starters, and then and management, again, for as much as you want to praise Nick Krall for the great things he's done lots of good things, including this week with Hunter Greene, you got to hammer him for literally doing nothing to address the 4th and 5th spots in the rotation. Overton and Sessa were never going to be, dependable starters. He signed, Chase Anderson and Daniel Norris to minor league deals. Anderson, 35 years old, is in Louisville right now. Norris was released. He's with Cleveland. Luke Weaver's the only one that got a major league deal for $2 million, which tells you what he's worth. That's a lot of money to you and I, but on the free agent market, that's nothing. And so, the other guys were all just, let's hope Justin Dunn's healthy. Let's hope Brandon Williamson improves. Let's hope Levi Stout improves. And so it's just, I don't know. We can't forget that it's managerial malpractice not to have. It's like a couple years ago when they didn't decide, we'll just try to play a year without a shortstop. We can do that, right? And so here, let's see if we can do it. We have 3 really good pitchers, so maybe we'll be okay. So, but anyway, whatever. Go read it if you want. If not, whatever. It's garbage writing.
I wanted to find a list of all of the pitchers that were signed this year to 1-year deals, just to see who was out there, who the Reds could have got, who's out there and in what price range the Reds might have been able to get. I was not able to find that list. Turns out that was way more difficult than I wanted it to be. So if anybody could put that together and send it over, that would be rad. But I can only imagine there were a dozen people out there they could have gotten for under a couple mil that would have at least given their team a chance, because the Reds didn't have a chance over the last week. What was the Joel Lookup tweet? 7+ run differential, the team alternating wins and losses. It giving up double-digit runs over and over and over through these turns and the rotations from these throwaways and never has-beens, and it's tough. I mean, I know that we talked about Luke Weaver got back on track a little bit today, but I tune into these games and I'm trying to get my new wife into the Reds, and you're 15 minutes into a game and they're down 7-0. Like, it's not fun.
I've been there. Yeah. And you say a couple mil or whatever, but even more than that, they dropped $10 million on Mike Minor last year. Go out and drop $4, $5, $6 million on just a couple of guys that can throw some innings at the back end of the rotation. Part of what I wrote was if the Reds had just decided to have an average payroll this year, just average big league payroll, they would have had to spend $73 million more dollars than they actually spent this year just to get to average. That's how far below average they are. But I made the point, that for that price, they could have signed, Jacob deGrom and Justin Verlander for that price, or Jacob deGrom, Carlos Rodon, and had some money left over. And I use those names just as markers for that's what you could have gotten to spend all that. And so idiots on Twitter are like, they never would have been able to get Justin Verlander or Jacob deGrom. They wouldn't have come here. You couldn't. I can't believe how people missed the point. Couldn't miss it harder if they tried. The fact is, if they just spent a little bit more money, they could have gotten some innings eaters. I'm not talking about really spending $71 million on a 4th and 5th starter, but a little bit more. Gotten a 4th and 5th starter to eat up some innings, just league average or even slightly below league average pace. And this team looks a lot different at that point. But again, we're screaming at clouds now. It's never going to happen. We did get some good news in the bullpen, though. Lucas Sims returned. That's good news, right? I think that's good news.
Yeah. Came back through a scoreless inning.
Yep.
Hopefully we can keep him healthy, put him in bubble wrap, and roll him out there every couple of days.
Unfortunately, Kevin, don't call me Jimmy Herget, and Casey Legumina. Am I pronouncing that? I never get that right. They were
good to me.
They were optioned out. They'll be back at some point.
Legumina looked good. I expect that he'll be back pretty soon. Even the advanced stuff liked him. The counting stats were good. I like what I saw out of him.
Again, you don't have to be that good to help this relief corps. Unfortunately, Tony Santillan, Santillan, Sims, and TJ Antone were 3 that if you're squinting to see a bullpen, those were 3 the Reds really need to have. His rehab has been halted again. discomfort in his right knee. Yeah, he had it was his back last year. It was his back last year. Now what are we going to do? That guy can be a good reliever, but all these guys can't stay healthy.
Yeah, and speaking of guys that can't stay healthy, for me, I guess the other biggest news outside of Hunter was that we got a Joey Votto update, and he said that his swing is just not there yet. I know you're not worried about Nick Lodolo. Are you starting to get a little worried about Joseph Daniel Votto?
No, never worry about Joey Votto. I just refuse to do that.
It's a good move.
I've given up on him once in the past. I won't make that mistake again. He did come back from his rehab assignment at AAA Louisville, and but it was not ready to be activated. Only went 7 for 38, struck out 21 times in 45 plate appearances in AAA. He can go on another rehab assignment for 20 days, but it's going to take at least 5 days because of the rules to send him back out. He says he's not ready, and there's a couple ways to look at this. Number one, he's never going to be ready. That's what some people, his detractors, will say. He's too old. This is what happens when you get old. Okay, maybe. On the other hand, I choose to believe that Votto knows his swing, that he's still in extended spring training mode. He has to get back from that shoulder surgery. He has to get back in the, he's not going to come back because this is maybe his last shot at it. He's not going to come back until he can be some semblance of Joey Votto. And maybe that never happens. Maybe he just quietly retires. I don't see that happening, but it's discouraging news for those of us that want to see him sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that's really it for me. This season is just less enjoyable every day that he's not in the lineup. So get well soon. Get your swing right, Joey. We miss you. We want you. We need you. After this all blows over, I think we should get a place together.
Definitely, 100%. Please hurry back, but make sure you're ready. Other big news of the week. We've kind of teased it a little bit here, Nate. Ellie De La Cruz, as we speak, making his minor league or his AAA 2023 debut for Louisville. 21-year-old number one prospect in all of baseball, according to some rankings. He's back. How excited are you to be able to watch Ellie De La Cruz?
I hope he teaches CES to pimp home runs, flip that bat. Starting at shortstop tonight, Matt McLean starting at second base. Are we getting a little glimpse of the middle infield of the future, which kind of ties into the topic I want to touch on next? We'll see, but could not be more excited. I love it when the entire baseball world is kind of keyed in on something that happens with the Reds, and between Hunter Greene signing and Ellie playing again, a lot of attention on the old ball club, and I love it. It's cool. It doesn't happen very often.
Positive attention.
Mm-hmm.
That's rather than the attention we got last April. So yeah, fun stuff. All right, so go ahead. You teased it. What's your next topic?
I titled this topic "Defense: The New Bullpen." There was based on a study, a report from Sports Info Solutions, and also my eyeballs. The Reds are dead last in Major League Baseball in turning grounders into outs. You don't have to be a scientist to know that is not good. Just looking at the Reds' defensive run saves numbers, courtesy of Fielding Bible, the worst four on the team: Jonathan India, Jose Barrero, Kevin Newman, and Nick Senzel. All in the negative. We get these young pitchers, and we talked a lot in the offseason about wanting to get veterans in the back of the rotation to help out. We were excited about the Kurt Casale signing because more veteran catchers is a good thing for these young guys. I'm starting to wonder what it might do to them psychologically to have such poor defense behind them. Jose Barrero, I thought, had such a big ceiling, and he still does, but he has just been botching routine plays left and right. India is what we thought he was. It's just so important, I think, if you're going to be a really good team, to be strong, at least solid up the middle. And this team's the opposite of that. So I don't know if there's much more we can say about it or how deep you can go, but it has been ugly so far.
Yeah, it really has. And first of all, can we bring the shift back, please? Because I think that was masking some of the defensive inadequacies that we saw, that we've seen so far this year. Yeah, the defense is really, really bad. And I mean, look, we expect the Reds are a bad team. We expect them to be bad. Man, for the you can mask the bullpen's inadequacies or the fourth or fifth star's inadequacies if you have a good defense. Like you said, I don't know what else to say about it. It's ugly. Then it's just I don't see it getting better anytime soon.
We need to see if we can poach Ron Washington, get him to come over, teach these guys how to field, maybe get some Tom Mansky videos playing in the clubhouse on a loop.
Yeah. Get the Hall of Famer Fred McGriff to come and give some pointers. Famous for the Tom Mansky. If you don't know what the Tom Mansky video is, what's wrong with you? So yeah, it was interesting though to see that report that sort of matched what the eyeball test was. Because just watching this team, you could tell. Well, I mentioned the rule changes. You want to get into there's some news about rule changes this week, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the rules, this year's rule changes, because we were pretty happy with them during spring training when we dove into this. Are you still pretty happy with the rule changes?
As a guy on my couch, I am, but I have not been to a game as of yet this season, a pro game. You just recently did. So what were your thoughts on at least the pitch clock specifically as someone who was in the stands?
Okay. I went to a Kansas City Royals game this week at Kauffman Stadium. It's the 19th stadium that I've been to, a big league stadium, which is pretty good. Nice stadium. It's older than me, which means that it's old. And it's really, they've done a good job updating it. Really pleasant place to watch a ball game. I actually went to 2 games there because Kansas City nightlife it's whatever. But as I was at the game, this was what day? Monday night, I think. Monday night of this week. I'm sitting there enjoying the game. Had a good seat because nobody else was there, and really enjoying being back at live baseball again. It's my first major league game of the year, and just sitting there marveling over how much fun it is just to sit at a ball, especially, frankly, when it's 2 teams that you don't care anything about, the Rangers and the Royals. Jacob deGrom started for the Rangers, and I was just really having a blast. And then I look up, we're through 8 innings, and we're an hour and 40 minutes into the game. Now, the 9th inning lasted a little while, but still, I'm like, wait a minute, I just got here. The game went too fast. So I don't know if because I like it when I'm sitting on my couch, like you said, but when I'm at the game, I don't mind sticking around for a while and enjoying it. There's some middle ground, I think, between 1 hour 40 minutes worth of 8 innings and 3 hours and 10 minutes. But I was a little bit unhappy that at the value I got for my ticket. Not really. I had a blast. It was fun to be there, and I got home.
That's a good point, though. Like, I had never thought about it that way. I mean, it's a commitment getting to the ballpark. You got to drive through traffic. You got to park, walk all the way there. You certainly want to sit down and take your time and enjoy it. So I wonder what the solution is, because you have to imagine they're monitoring these things. You think more time in between innings or half innings? Or do you think do you extend the pitch clock by like a second, 2 seconds? Does that make a big difference? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know the answer either. That was my first thought, was maybe extend the pitch clock just a little bit. Let's hit some sort of a happy medium here. Because I do like if the game moves. That was good. They were getting the ball. They were playing. Just not a lot of time. Maybe a little. I can't believe I'm saying more time between innings because we've complained for years about all the ad breaks. But I mean, you can't hardly get up and go and go to the restroom or get you a drink in between innings. Frankly, so it was. I don't know what the answers are, and I'm still in favor of all the rule changes. But there may be some tweaking that they need to do a little bit. I don't know. We'll see. Now, but did you see the new rule changes they're talking about now? They're using the Atlantic League, Nate. Talk about those for a minute.
Yeah, this is nuts. I don't remember where I read it, but an article came out saying that they are experimenting with some new things down the Atlantic League 3 in particular. The first one was a designated pinch runner, where one guy on the roster can be the pinch runner for the rest of the game, and whoever he runs for can come back into the game to regain their spot in the lineup in the field, which is just weird. I have fun. I don't support that yet, but if it brings Billy Hamilton back to the Reds, maybe. That's how you win Chad over.
That's right.
The other one is infuriating to me, the next one. They're experimenting with only 1 pitcher disengagement allowed. I don't like the pitcher disengagement rules in the big leagues right now. I think 2 is too few. It's leading to this weird version of baseball that I don't like. Not just speeding it up and encouraging, like running and hits and athleticism. It's just changed things a little too much. So cutting that down even further, I could not be more opposed to. And then the last one is this double hook designated hitter, where you get to use a DH, but if your starter doesn't go 5 innings, doesn't make it through 5, then you lose the DH for the rest of the time. It's just we've gone too far. Can you just calm down? I think Rob Manfred was like, "Holy crap, they liked it. They liked those things we did. We should do more." It's baffling.
It is. It's crazy. I don't like any of these. I'm with you on the pitcher disengagements. I just, in theory, it sounded pretty good to me, but in practice, I don't know. Are we tipping the scales too much towards the runners against the catchers? And are we, promoting gamesmanship with all that as well? I don't, and there's always gonna be some of that in baseball, but I don't, that's the one current rule that I don't, well, besides the extra inning ghost runner rule. Sure. This double hook rule, or whatever they call it, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. It's just the dumbest. No, it's not the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. It's not the dumbest thing I've heard today. One guy said that you shouldn't sign Hunter Greene to a contract because he hasn't thrown more than 4 innings yet. That was way dumber than the double hook DH rule. But I understand why somebody thought it was a good idea, which is that we want starting pitchers to go. I liked it back in the day when the starting pitchers used to throw complete games. We want them going deeper in the game. Yeah, I agree. I like that. That seems like a really goofy way to try to, I don't know, it's dumb.
You got everybody. We just got everybody to agree that we're all pretty okay with having universal DH. Like a lot of people were really opposed to that. After a year or so, people are like, okay, fine, we can live with this. And now you're gonna just go back to only having it for half the game. Sometimes it's just weird. I don't get it.
I don't either. Crazy. So, but anyway, I did want to mention that about being at the game and how it went too quick. It wasn't like that necessarily the next game. The next game that I went to was, it was an average, about 2.5 hours or something. It was fine. It was good, but it was a 12-2 game. It was ugly. It wasn't fun.
I would like to get the opinion of somebody that has season tickets. Because if you're going to these games all the time, if you go to 80 games a year, maybe you don't care that it's quick. You live in Cincinnati, you're walking to the game, you get in and out, no big deal. I don't know. We'll talk get some more feedback on that.
No, that's a good point. It's a good point. Yeah, get back to the house, especially on a school night. If you have kids, you can get them in and out. But when it's somebody that's like when we were growing up, you're having to drive a couple hours to get to the game, and it's that's an all day thing, and you want to really enjoy it. I don't know. It's interesting thought exercise. Before we get to our viewer mail, Nate, we have to have what's going to become a weekly segment here on the Riverfront. The weekly Reggie Sanders belongs in the Reds Hall of Fame reminder. Nate, do you have anything that can maybe any stats perhaps that might be able to help us make the case for why Reggie Sanders deserves to be in the Reds Hall of Fame?
I don't think we're ever going to have difficulty finding ways to fill this segment up, but for the first installment, we just did a quick little search. Reggie Sanders had 21.5 Baseball Reference wins above replacement in a Cincinnati Reds uniform. Of the position players at that number, 21.5 WAR or higher, the only ones not in the Reds Hall of Fame are active player Joey Votto and Brandon Phillips. Now, I have a feeling that BP is going to get in at some point.
No doubt.
Mm-hmm. Joey Votto is going to be in all of the Hall of Fames.
Yes.
Baseball, Reds, Canadian, maybe the Chess Hall of Fame. I don't know.
Definitely. So put Reggie Sanders in the Hall of Fame is all we're saying.
It's a no-brainer.
Absolute no-brainer. How about some viewer mail? These questions, as always, come from our friends at patreon.com/riverfrontcincy. That's patreon.com/riverfrontcincy, where you too can join the show here. Join the family. Kyle Kapler, would you take a chance on Mad Bum? Better than Overton and Sessa. That sounds like Mad Bum. It's like something. No, I'm not gonna do that. No, I'm not going to go that far. Madison Bumgarner, of course, he's talking about. Madison Bumgarner, former star for the San Francisco Giants, was designated for assignment by the Arizona Diamondbacks. Madison Bumgarner, 33 years old, 0-3 with a 10.26 ERA in 4 starts. So better than Overton and Sessa. Well, this year, looks pretty similar. Of course, from age 21 to 26, 27, Bumgarner was legitimately good, even into his late 20s. Legitimately a good pitcher. Only a great pitcher, maybe for a year or two of that, and really good postseason performances, obviously, but a real solid pitcher, 4-time All-Star. No. Why? Why are we? And Kyle, I'm like you. I saw that news, and I was like, should the Reds? And the answer is we're conditioned to every time somebody goes on the waiver wire, we got to take a flyer on him. I don't think he can help the team. I'd rather see Levi Stout get those starts, to be honest.
Yeah, could not agree more. It's a hard no for me for the sole reason that I don't like watching him pitch. We got a lot of young, impressionable dudes out there. This team is fun. They all seem to get along and like each other, and he's just not very likable to me. I don't want him bringing his mad bum stink over to this this roster.
Oh, Nate, I'm looking at our show outline here, and I realize I missed a topic that we probably should at least mention. Don't you think? Valley Sports Ohio?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Valley Sports Ohio, just quickly, we won't get into it too much because there's not a whole lot to say. Diamond Sports Group, actually, who operates Valley Sports Ohio, officially informed the Reds that they will not be paying their rights fees for broadcasting their games. We talked about this a couple months ago, and it's been expected for a while now. Evidently, there's a 15-day grace period here where they can make the payment without any penalty, without a late penalty. And then anyway, after that, it looks like the MLB may be able to take back the broadcast rights, and so we'll see what happens. I just want to make sure that we did mention that actually happened this week, and who knows what's going to be up.
Yeah, the Saturday, May 6th is the first game that's sort of up in the air. If MLB has to take back the broadcasting rights, not sure where they'll air that. A few different rumors floating about. Apparently, the guys like Sadak and the gang are not going to be affected by this. Ostensibly, they are sort of like hired by a third party who would then also represent whatever the next gig is. So that's interesting. I also just think it's a bold strategy, and I think I'm going to try it in my personal life. I'm just going to write some really professional letters on nice letterhead to people that I owe money to and be like, I am going to miss this payment.
see how that works out for you. Yeah. All right, back to viewer mail. Joe Farsing. I just used my nose hair. What? Joe.
This was my fault.
I just used my nose hair trimmer, but I was still able to yank a nearly inch-long hair from my nostril. Should I sue Wall for a defective product? Nate, I'll let you answer that one.
Sounds like user error to me, Joe. You got to get in there and get those things. Can't blame the equipment for that. But also an inch long. Those are rookie numbers, man. 3+ inches, or it doesn't count. Get out of here.
Got to get those numbers up. My question is, what are you doing buying a nose hair trimmer? I mean, what are you, I hire somebody to do that. I mean, doesn't everybody hire someone to trim their nose hair? I got a guy that comes over here once a week. Yeah, he comes over here once a week, does a little trimming, then goes out and finishes the landscaping. And the yard, nowhere else. Oh, good Lord. Joey Gaditza. Why are we Reds fans? I mean, really, why? Boy, that's a question every week, but I don't know.
That's 2 questions, Joey. You know the rules.
Oh, Joey. He's on double secret probation for asking too many questions. I don't know the answer to that. I just think we need to move on. Nathan Connor. Nate, this is a long question. Nathan, did you go to the Rich Thompson school of asking questions? It's a good question. It's a lengthy. We like the shorter ones here, but we're going to, you know what? We love you so much. We're going to do it. Much of the Reds' shortstop discussion has involved criticism about how the Reds aren't moving some of their pieces to fit other needs. But I've not heard anyone point out that perhaps that's not necessary. These players can bring value to the Reds in other ways. As much as we'd all like to fill out a starting lineup using the current Reds top 25 prospects list, that isn't how competitive rosters are constructed at the big league level. Yes, we've seen the Reds trade current value for future value, but as we get more competitive on the big league team, we can trade from depth to address more immediate needs. Our opponents this week, the Rays, always do this. The Reds themselves have done this in the past. Instead of moving Kurt Stillwell or Barry Larkin to second base, they traded Stillwell to acquire Danny Jackson. In 1998, the Reds had Sean Casey, Dimitri Young, and Paul Konerko all on the same roster. Konerko and eventually Young were moved in time for value in other places. Having surplus, particularly athletic surplus, is only a positive. Thoughts? Oh, yeah, absolutely 100%. You know, we joked around here when they were trading for all these shortstops. And some people criticize Nick Krall for that. I criticize Nick Krall for a lot of things. Not for that. Get the best players you can when they're part of a haul. You know, now if you're going out in the free agent market and signing 6 shortstops on the big league level, well, that's probably a mistake. But yeah, just get as much organizational depth as you can. Then, you know, if you have 4 excellent shortstops, and the Reds had 4 decent, maybe 5 decent shortstop prospects here, if you include Jose Barrero and Edwin Arroyo. If all 5 of those made it to the big leagues and were legit big leaguers and all able to stay at shortstop, well, okay, then you're going to have a problem. Some of them are not going to make it at shortstop. They've already moved Marte to third. Some of them are not going to pan out. They're not going to be big leaguers. Wait and see what happens, and then yes, trade from deal from strength. Yeah, never a problem when it's on the minor league level. Anything to add to that, Nate?
No, just let time do its thing. It'll sort it out. If you're athletic enough to play shortstop in the major leagues, you're athletic enough to play other positions too. So good. These are good problems to have.
Absolutely. Nate, what else is going on around the riverfront? Got something big happening this weekend, don't we?
Yeah, we got a couple things. The Riverfront Bengal Show just dropped their new episode, a big, long draft discussion with Joe and Greg. Really excited about what those guys are doing. So much better now that I'm not a part of it. But
I agree.
The big news comes from our Sunday Night Late Show. Our guy, Tim Daniel, has a special guest coming on, former Cincinnati Red Drew Stubbs. Tim is actually a huge Drew Stubbs fan, just kind of casually reached out, and Mr. Stubbs agreed to come on. So really excited about not just having him on there, but the direction of that podcast. It's really, really cool. So kudos to those guys.
And as you saw, we heard what Nate said. The only requirement was that we call him Mr. Stubbs. Okay. He demanded that in his contract rider. Yeah. They call me Mr. Stubbs. That's a movie reference that nobody gets except for me.
That's true.
And if you do get it, tweet it at me and let me know. All right. Yeah, that's going to be exciting. Drew Stubbs, 9 p.m. Sunday night. It's on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/RiverfrontCincy. You can also get it Facebook and Twitter at our feeds at Riverfront Cincy and those places. And, you know, if you show up live, you can ask questions in real time of Mr. Stubbs and Tim Daniel and maybe Carlos and who else may join us at that time. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, if you want to have anything in particular you want to ask, Tim has been out on Twitter taking questions. So if you've got something that's really burning, get on there, find Tim on Twitter, and get your question answered.
Yeah, absolutely. Nate, any final thoughts for us before we pack it up here?
That's it, man. Reds down 4-1 as we are wrapping up. Open for a little comeback. Let's go.
Yes, by the time you hear this, the Reds will have come back to a win because good vibes only here in Reds Nation. Red Leg Nation, I should say. All right. Thanks to everyone for listening and supporting the Riverfront. Shout out to Adam Dunn. Shouts to Lisa Alberto, Wayne Krenchicki, and Eli Cash. For Nate Dotson and Miguel Cairo, this is Chad Dotson saying so long, everyone.